What are you doing?
What? I'm hungry.
We could just make something to put that on.
Let's make a charcuterie board.
In this video, we're going to be making a charcuterie board completely out of recycled plastic. We're also going to take you through our complete step-by-step guide on our finishing process for HDPE. Isn't that right, Johnny?
Yeah, recycled plastic. Cool.
We're in the middle of a video, what are you doing?
Playing Raid Shadow Legends.
Huh?
I'm playing Raid Shadow Legends! The ultimate fantasy turn-based RPG that has a whole load of game modes. It's got an in-depth campaign, PvP arena, faction wars, dungeon raids, clan battles, the lot. And not only that, it's got some of the best graphics I've ever seen on a mobile game, as well as a wicked storyline.
So, can you melt plastic in this game?
No, but there are literally millions of artifacts to equip, upgrade and collect, as well as over 500 badass champions, each with their own abilities and skill trees.
Well, does it have dwarves?
Yep.
Elves?
Yeah.
Orcs?
Damn right.
That's it, I'm getting it.
You better, as this month they've got a huge update which launches the Doom Tower. A big old tower with 120 floors, a bunch of secret challenge rooms, and 12 mental bosses to take on. And to help get you started, the guys over at Raid are giving you a special champion, Bulwark, to help you take on the tower. So hit up the link in the description below and get a head start with a free champion, an XP booster, 50 gems, some energy refills and an ancient shard, straight into your inbox.
Merry Christmas!
We should probably make that charcuterie board, shouldn't we?
Oh yeah!
So you've already seen us weigh out all of that plastic, so now we just need to use our normal method of melting the plastic with both a panini press and our little toaster oven.
So what we're doing here is we're melting all of the colours in separate batches before combining it all together at the end. We found that this helps make the colours more defined as well as making that marbling really stand out.
On projects like this, On projects like this or something similar, where it's important that it's super flat, we tend to let it cool overnight. That way you can be sure that it's not going to warp once it's out of the mould. Once it's been taken out of the press, we tend to go around and clean up those edges and any high spots with a chisel.
Next, we're going to run it through our thicknesser and we're aiming for a final size of about 10mm. And here is where you get to see for the first time some of that awesome marbling that you're trying to get. We wanted to make this board a really ergonomic shape, so as well as the curved handle, we added a round over all the way around the perimeter of the board so it feels really nice in the hand.
So we went back and forth on the shape of this one a little bit before settling on this asymmetrical design. We included a hole in the handle right down that middle line just so it could be hung up nicely. We always like to add a couple of grooves down the side of our boards just to catch any liquids, so it's important that you give it a rough sand just so there's a nice smooth surface for that router to run across.
As mentioned at the start of the video, we wanted to go through our whole finishing process, which covers any recycled plastic project that we do.
We categorise these into 3 different options: a machine finish, a high polish finish, and an everyday finish.
Sounds like a weird thumbs.
By the way, all of the products we're about to talk about are going to be linked in the description below.
So if you've got sharp tools and a steady hand, then you can actually get a great finish straight off of the machine. This works really well for things that you might turn on the lathe, such as mallets or other shop projects that you don't need a super shiny finish.
If you want to get the best possible finish out of your recycled plastic, this is the most effective method that we've found.
First, you want to sand your project to the highest grit that you have. We tend to take it to about 3000. Now, if your project has any difficult curves or contours, maybe try out these filament cut brushes, which help get into some of those tricky areas.
The next step depends on the size of your project. For smaller projects, we use a product called micro mesh, which takes you all the way through to 20,000 grit. If the product you're finishing is on the larger side, we use a series of polishing wheels, each being slightly softer than the last.
The last step is to give the whole thing a final polish with a woolen polishing pad. The last option we call our everyday finish because it's what we use for 90% of our recycled plastic projects, and it's what we're going to use for this board.
Once you're happy with the shape, you're going to want to start sanding. We tend to start at about 120 grit and go all the way through to 800.
So once you're all done sanding and it feels smooth to the touch, the last thing to do is to give it a really quick once over with one of these polishing pads.
So I'm not going to go for a full polish, just enough to bring out a little bit of a shine, as well as make those colours really pop. We're going to be using one of these car polishing tools, but make sure you keep that speed low so it doesn't put too much heat into the plastic.
So whichever of the 3 methods you choose to go with, there are some general things that you should always bear in mind.
If you want to add a finish to your product, it's best to avoid things like resins or varnishes, as they just sit on top of the material rather than actually adhere to it.
You can use things like burnishing cream or even a finishing wax just to help bring out that colour a little bit, but really they're not that necessary. And actually they make the plastic harder to recycle in the long run.
We have heard a few times of people using a blowtorch to flame polish the HDPE. However, we've tried this ourselves and we've never really found it particularly effective. Be really careful to put as little heat into the plastic as possible, just because HDPE seems to warp at the smallest inkling of heat.
If you come across any holes or gaps in your plastic, make sure you fill these before any of the finishing process takes place. If you wait until afterwards, you're going to have to start the whole process again anyway. To do this, take some of the plastic shavings of the same colour, sprinkle it on the surface and use a heat gun to melt the two together.
Be absolutely sure to wear your PPE whenever you're sanding plastic. Although HDPE doesn't give off any toxins when you're melting it, the microplastics put into the air when you're sanding could definitely do a lot of harm.
We also use a dedicated dust extraction system solely for use with HDPE, which catches as much microplastic as possible. However, these are never 100% effective, so always make sure you're wearing your respirator when you're working with plastics.
Right, that's enough of us waffling on. Let's go check out how that board turned out.
So there's our finished charcuterie board, as well as our complete guide on how to finish recycled plastic.
Hopefully you've learnt something new, and if you've got any tips for finishing plastic, be sure to let us know in the comments below.
And a huge thank you to Raid for sponsoring our video.
Should we go eat some cheese and play some road?
Let's do it.
Burger cheese.
Can't leave it now.
No, we got bubbledels. I don't know.
Look at that. Yes, there you go. Good.